I didn't cry when they told me it was cancer. I just folded the diagnosis, put it in my purse, and smiled at the nurse like she'd handed me a coupon, not a countdown. What broke me wasn't the disease. It was what my son did 2 days later. And no, this isn't a loud revenge story. It's quieter than that. But it might be the one that finally makes you pause and remember your own mother. When my husband died, Kyle was 17. And I remember thinking, don't let this boy feel like the world just got smaller. So I worked. 2 shifts at the hospital, sometimes 3. I missed Christmas once, not because I wanted to, but because the overtime meant I could pay for his college textbooks in full. That house, the one with the pale blue shutters on 19th Street, was never supposed to be mine forever. I always told Kyle, this will be yours someday, honey. I just didn't expect someday to arrive so soon or in such silence. When he finished law school and couldn't get approved for a loan to start his firm, I offered. No second thought. We went to the office, I signed the transfer. He hugged me outside the notary building and said, I'll make you proud, Mom. That was the last time he looked me in the eye when money was involved. I didn't mind, though. Honestly, watching him rise felt like repayment enough. He bought his first real desk and sent me a photo. I printed it, framed it, and kept it on the nightstand. People talk about maternal sacrifice like it's some saintly thing, but really, it's practical. You see a hill in front of your child and you push, even if your legs give out. Looking back, maybe that was my first mistake. Thinking love would be returned just because it was given. But I wasn't naive, just hopeful. Maybe too hopeful. So when the coughing got worse and the diagnosis came, I did what I'd always done. Handled it, quietly. I sat Kyle down one evening, showed him the scans, and said, I'll need to be closer to the clinic just during treatment. He nodded slowly, rubbed the back of his neck, said, Of course, Mom, whatever you need, it's your house too. Even though it wasn't. Not on paper, not anymore. And maybe I should have heard the chill in that, but all I heard was my son's voice, and I wanted so badly to believe I still mattered. I came home from a blood test 2 days later, expecting to crawl into bed and rest for an hour. But my room was gone. The furniture had been moved into the hallway, mattress leaning against the wall like a piece of junk waiting for bulk pickup. My clothes, folded, boxed, not a single word from Kyle in advance, just done. He came out of the kitchen sipping cold brew like it was any other afternoon. Hey, Mom, he said. I've been thinking, Hannah's migraines have gotten worse. Her job's remote now and she really needs a quiet space. So I set you up in the garage for now just so she can focus. For now? He said it like a favor, like I should be grateful. I stood there, coat still on, purse still over my shoulder, and I nodded. Not because I was okay with it, but because I didn't want to make a scene. I told myself maybe it was temporary. Maybe he didn't know how bad it looked. Then I saw the setup, a thin cot between the water heater and a stack of storage bins, a space heater on one side, and in the far corner, a 5-gallon paint bucket with a liner and a roll of toilet paper sitting on top like it was a solution. You know that feeling when your mouth smiles but your heart drops through the floor? That was me. I nodded again, like some polite guest being shown her suite at a Motel 6. And let me pause here to ask you something real. If this were your mother, your blood, would you do this? Drop me a comment, because sometimes I wonder if I'm overreacting, or if other people would have drawn the line sooner. That night, I slept in my coat, didn't take off my shoes. The wind whistled under the garage door like a warning, and from the kitchen, I could hear them laughing, Kyle and Hannah, about wedding cupcakes. I'd spent 29 years making sure Kyle never went to bed cold, and here I was, shaking on a cot while he tasted frosting. I told myself again, it's fine, it's just a couple weeks. Don't ruin the engagement. Don't be selfish. But there was a voice in me, small and getting louder, that whispered, he's not making space for her. He's erasing you. And maybe he already had. People think pain is loud, screaming, crying, fists pounding on the wall. But real pain, deep, soul-cracking pain, is quiet. It folds itself into corners. It slips between words like, "It's just temporary, and you're being dramatic." The garage became my world. In the mornings, I'd wipe down the cot, straighten the folded towels like I was still someone who had a place. At night, I'd boil water on the portable burner Lucia had left and sip weak broth while wedding planning chatter drifted through the drywall. They forgot me. No, worse. They remembered just enough to keep up appearances. Kyle would poke his head in now and then, hand me a grocery bag like it was a gift, not a list of things I paid for. He once said, "Mom, you're adjusting so well out here. Hannah really appreciates your patience." As if I were a pet being trained to stay. The worst was the bathroom. One morning I walked to the hall like always, only to find the door locked. From the kitchen, Kyle didn't even look up. "Maybe just use the hose out back, Mom. Less disruptive for everyone." He said it while stirring creamer into his coffee. That night, I stood behind the garage in my nightgown, holding a bucket of water with shaking hands, praying no one looked out a window. The cold burned my skin. And I cried, not from shame, but from how fast I'd accepted it, how normal it had become. I stopped asking for rides to treatment. When Kyle forgot my consultation and I missed it completely, I didn't remind him. I just told the clinic I'd been too sick. But it wasn't sickness. It was surrender. I started hiding things, pills, tissues, appointment cards, in cracks behind the insulation. Not because I had a plan, I just needed the comfort of knowing I had something no one else could take. Because piece by piece, I was disappearing. I didn't recognize my own voice anymore. I ate in silence, moved softly, made myself small, and through it all I kept writing, a little notebook tucked behind the garage shelf where I logged every moment. The night I heard them laughing over pasta while I chewed dry crackers. The Sunday I found my only coat soaked from a garage leak. The birthday Kyle forgot. Again. I wasn't angry yet. Not then. I was grieving. Not for my life, but for the version of my son I used to believe in. It started with a name. My name. Scribbled on an envelope half-tucked beneath the couch cushion. Lucia had asked me to grab glass cleaner from the hall closet. I sat down for a minute just to rest. That's when I saw it. Curious, I opened it. Inside, a credit card statement for a card I never applied for. $6,000 in purchases, all under my name. Streaming subscriptions, camera gear, some company called BitGrow Holdings. It hit me like chemo to the gut. I didn't need to ask. I knew. 2 years ago, Kyle's first firm collapsed. He cried on the porch, begged me to help, said it was just paperwork, a quick cosign. I told him yes, because that's what mothers do. And now? Now my name was tethered to someone else's recklessness. I slipped the envelope into my bag and said nothing. But something in me cracked wide open. That night, I didn't boil water. I didn't read. I just sat on the cot in the cold and stared at the ceiling, hearing Kyle's voice over and over. "It's just temporary, Mom. You're used to being independent." He hadn't just forgotten me. He'd rewritten me, turned me into the convenient excuse, the name on the title, the ghost who lived outside. I started checking everything after that. Mail, computers, trash bins. One night, Kyle left his laptop open. I saw browser tabs for fast personal loans, NFT liquidation, how to sell a home in someone else's name. He wasn't planning a future. He was spiraling. And I was his safety net. The next day, I walked to the library, said I needed to stretch my legs. But what I really did was scan the statement, email it to a private folder under a new name, mgates.legalarchive.gmail.com. I started saving everything. Every missed appointment, every utility bill he blamed on me, even the thermostat app he locked with a password because gas is too expensive. This wasn't neglect. This was theft with a smile. I wasn't just unwanted. I was being erased, quietly, strategically, and legally. That night, Lucia brought me warm soup. She didn't say a word, just left it on the shelf. But when she looked at me, her eyes lingered, like she knew. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. And that was the beginning of the end. For him, I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not Lucia. Not the neighbor who sometimes waved from his porch, and certainly not Kyle, who still walked around the house like the world owed him something. He didn't know I'd started walking to the legal aid clinic twice a week. Didn't know I'd spoken to a woman named Cheryl who specialized in elder abuse cases. Didn't know I had a manila folder hidden behind the garage insulation filled with every receipt, screenshot, photo, and email I'd collected for 3 months straight. Because this time, I wasn't asking for permission. This time, I wasn't going to plead with my son to see me. I was building a truth he couldn't rewrite. The house wasn't his. Not fully. Yes, the title bore his name. But the original transfer? It was conditional. Back when I signed it over, I had one clause inserted, at my late husband's insistence. It read, "The transfer is revocable in the event that the grantee fails to provide adequate care or residence to the grantor for a minimum of 6 consecutive months." I never thought I'd use it, but here we were, and now I had the proof. Photos of the cot beside a rusted water heater, logs of missed doctor visits, a video clip of Kyle telling someone over speakerphone, "She's got maybe a few months left and the garage thing's working fine." Lucia never asked what I was doing, but she stayed longer during her shifts. She brought me a prepaid flip phone one day and said, just in case. I used it to back up everything to the cloud. The quiet revenge was already happening, not in shouts, but in signatures, not in fights, but in facts. One morning, I sat across from Cheryl as she reviewed the final documents. We signed the revocation order, the trust papers, and the sale agreement. The house was mine again, and it would be gone before he even noticed. I didn't cry, didn't shake. I just felt still. That night, as I sat in the garage eating oatmeal Lucia had left, I looked at the walls around me. Cold, cracked, and temporary. But in my chest, something had shifted. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was reclaiming. And this time, no one would take it away. The house sold 3 weeks later. Kyle didn't notice at first. He was too busy arguing on Zoom calls and stress-eating protein bars. But when the for sale sign disappeared and the locks were changed, he stormed into the garage. He held a manila envelope like a weapon. "Did you change the will?" he asked, voice tight. I didn't flinch. I just looked at him. "You used my name to open a credit card, Kyle. You forgot my appointments. You told me to shower with a garden hose. I didn't change the will. I reclaimed it." He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Then he laughed, nervous, hollow. "Mom, come on, I've been under pressure. You can't throw away everything I've done for you." I smiled. "Everything?" I stood up slowly, coat still zipped. "You stopped doing things for me the minute you got the deed." He didn't say another word, just turned and walked out. Shoulders slumped, a little boy in a suit that never quite fit. I moved out quietly 2 days later. Lucia drove me to a hospice care facility by the bay. Small, clean, quiet. She brought fresh flowers every Tuesday and sat with me through the hard hours, telling stories about her kids, her mother, her garden. I didn't tell Kyle I was leaving. I didn't need to. Before I passed, I left a sealed envelope with Lucia. Inside was a letter addressed to him and a copy of the trust document. The house now belonged to the Gates Fund for Displaced Youth, a scholarship for students who'd been rejected, disowned, or made to feel like shadows in their own homes. The requirement? Applicants had to write a short essay titled "What I Needed Most and Never Got." Kyle received the letter 2 days after the funeral. I heard through someone that he tried to contest it. The judge dismissed his case in 20 minutes. Because the truth, documented and undeniable, was louder than any performance he could put on. I'm gone now. But my story isn't. It lives in quiet scholarships, in whispered thank yous, in hands that finally hold diplomas no one thought they'd earn. And in case no one told you today, if you've ever felt forgotten, used, or pushed to the edge of someone else's life, you're not alone. You were never the problem. You were just the part they couldn't control. If this story touched something in you, tell me below. What would you have done if you were in her place? I read every single comment. Your stories matter too.